Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to your football predictions for Game Week 8. There was no Game Week 7 in the end, but loads of you guys still got your predictions in on the last video, so I'll still put a whole load of them on screen now. Be sure to get down below and get your predictions in the comments for the Game Week 8 games, and check out the online league as well down in the description. Geordie among Jocks won the league in Game Week 6. As I say, there was no Game Week 7, so be sure to get involved for Game Week 8. It's just a bit of fun, and be sure to subscribe. We do this predictions video for every game week of the Premier League, and as always, we will go through all of the games together now. Now then, not all of the games are going ahead this weekend. There is 7 games in total, and they are on tomorrow night, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. There's actually 2 games on tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, the first of which is Aston Villa taking on Southampton. So Villa have not had the greatest start to the season, currently sitting in 17th place after 6 games. They've won 1, they've drawn 1, and they've lost 4. There was a lot of build-up around Villa before the season started, with the hopes of really getting in that top 10, maybe even pushing for Europa League Conference or Europa League spots. Not the start they would have wanted, and I think there is a little bit of pressure under Gerrard right now to really start to get things going. I think Watkins has started the season well. I think they're starting to get a bit more from Bailey than they were previously, and you know, a draw against Manchester City in their last Premier League game is not bad at all. Taking on a Southampton side who are currently sitting in 12th, have done a bit better than Villa so far. They've won 1 more game. They've won 2, drawn 1 and lost 3. They did lose against Wolves in their last game, and I think for Southampton, many people have kind of predicted they could get relegated this season. For many years, they've kind of sold, you know, rising stars on for big money fees, and I feel like this summer was the one where they could have really have done with spending a bit of money. I think Arabo, who they've brought in, has looked really good, but I still feel like they just lack that little bit more than they might need. In fairness, Ward-Prowse is dragging them through it and got himself a call up to the England squad as well. So for this game, I think it's going to be a tight one. Villa are at home, so I have edged it to them. I've gone 1-0, but I think on paper, Villa, I would probably back Villa. I would say they could be the slight favourites going into this one, but a lot of it is what team's going to turn up for both of them. So yeah, I've backed Villa. Let me know your thoughts on that one down below. Next up again, tomorrow night, Friday night at 8 o'clock. I don't really know why they've got 2 games on the Friday night. I know that Villa versus Southampton is actually on the TV. Nottingham Forest versus Fulham isn't. So if it's not on the telly, I don't know why they've put it on a Friday night. But anyway, it's 2 promoted sides, 2 different starts to the season. Nottingham Forest sat in 19th, Fulham sat in 10th. Nottingham Forest have won 1, drawn 1, lost 4. Fulham have won 2, drawn 2, and lost 2. So if I had to predict which of the 2 teams I thought would be doing better after the first 6 games, I probably would have backed Nottingham Forest. I just think that, and we know this, they've gone out and bought an entire new squad, never mind starting 11, but there are some good players in there. They just need to get them clicking, and they lost against Bournemouth 3-2 in their last game, so they did get 2 goals. You know, they are putting the ball in the back of the net, but I think they were 2-0 up and lost 3-2. So that's not great. And against the Bournemouth side, who I think are also one of the favourites to go down. I think of the 3, you know, Nottingham Forest were possibly edged to be, you know, the team who did stay up this season. At the moment, they're not really proving it. And as I say, taking on a Fulham side who have started better. They did lose 2-1 against Spurs, but Mitro it's happening, you know. We saw Mitro, you know, go down with Fulham, or come up with Fulham, I should say. Didn't play well last time round, went down, record goal scorer in the Championship, and it was just the question mark over this time around. Could he do it? Well, he's already scored more than he did last time in the Premier League. So I think it could be tight, and I've gone 1-1. If I was going to back a team, I can't not back Mitro right now because he's just running the show in every game he plays. But I still think there's more to come from Nottingham Forest, so I'm not going to write them off. So I've gone 1-1. Now then, on to the Saturday at 12:30. We have got Wolves taking on Manchester City. So Wolves did not have a great start to the season, but have now got their first win in game week 6. They beat Southampton 1-0, and that was actually their first win in the Premier League for 12 games because of how badly they ended last season. A slow start to this season, but they have a win under their belts now, and I've brought in a new striker. We have seen Jimenez return from injury. He actually returned and then was out again because of a groin issue, and they've generally been trying to bring in a new striker. Well, they've done it. I did not expect to see Diego Costa back in the Premier League anytime soon, but he's back. He's playing for Wolves. If you've not seen his signing video online, you should go and take a look. He's walking along with live Wolves when he's actually come out and said that he was scared. I'm not surprised, Diego, to be honest, having to wander around with a bunch of Wolves, but it's very cool. Thankfully, none of them bit his leg off, and it'll be interesting to see whether he gets his debut this weekend, taking on a Manchester City side currently sitting in second, but are one of the undefeated teams this season in the Premier League, have won 4 and drawn 2. They did draw their last game, as I mentioned earlier, against Aston Villa. Haaland is just totally running the show. They won in the Champions League this midweek against Dortmund, where Haaland scored a goal with 5 minutes to go to win that game, and I don't rule him out scoring at any time in this game. So I've gone 3-1 Manchester City. It's just, if you don't have Haaland as your fantasy league captain, then you're probably the odd one out, because you just can't not back him or Manchester City at the moment. Next up at 3 o'clock on the Saturday, and we have just one 3 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday in the Premier League, which is very strange. We have Newcastle taking on Bournemouth. So both teams have had similar starts to the season. Both teams are on 7 points. Newcastle have won 1, drawn 4 and lost 1. Bournemouth have actually got more wins. They've won 2, drawn 1 and lost 3. As I mentioned, similar starts for both teams. Newcastle drew 0-0 in their last game, which was at St James's Park. Drew 0-0 against Crystal Palace. We obviously had all of the VAR fiascos in that game, and I'm praying that won't affect any of the game against Bournemouth this weekend. There's a big question mark for Newcastle over whether Bruno, Saint-Maximin and Wilson will be able to start. All three are set to be close to returning, and depending on what happens with them three, would affect my prediction for the game, to be honest, because of how big a difference it would be if 1 or 2 or potentially even all 3 are on the pitch. Having said that, the new striker Isak has hit the ground running for Newcastle, scoring in his debut against Liverpool. Did not score against Crystal Palace, despite Newcastle having 23 shots in that game. So I think a big thing for Newcastle is put the ball in the back of the net, as Michael Owen would like to say. Taking on a Bournemouth side who, as I mentioned, have had a very decent start since they sacked their manager Scott Parker, who a lot of people thought was very, very harsh. On reflection, it wasn't as much the losing 9-0 against Liverpool as it was the interview afterwards, where he kind of takes a dig at his own team, or in my opinion seems to take a bit of a dig at his own team, then takes a bit of a dig at the owners for not giving him enough money. And Gary O'Neill's done alright since he's been in. He got a draw and a win, and has now publicly said he would like the job. I think for Bournemouth going to St James's Park, you'd imagine Newcastle will be the favourites here. I think a draw for Bournemouth would be a good result, but I'm hoping Newcastle can have some returned players, can have a lot of the ball, can have a lot of shots, and can get a decent win before we head into an international break. So I've backed Newcastle 3-0. Hopefully I'm right. On to the 5:30 game on Saturday. We have got Spurs taking on Leicester. So Spurs are sat in 3rd place and are the only other team other than Man City still yet to lose a game. They've won 4 and drawn 2. They beat Fulham in their last Premier League game, but I mentioned Man City winning in a last-minute goal in the Champions League. Spurs lost to 2 last-minute goals in their Champions League game, and I've no doubt will want to take a little bit of revenge this weekend when they play Leicester, who have not had a good start to the season, currently sat in 20th place. Spurs are yet to lose a game. Leicester are yet to win a game. They've just drawn 1 game, lost 5. They have 1 point on the board, losing against Brighton in their most recent Premier League game. And there's just... Well, I was going to say there's questions over Rodgers. I think there's just questions everywhere right now as to what is going on with Leicester. I think it's fair to say that they had that amazing Premier League season. They had that time in the Champions League. They had that time in Europe. And to continue that would have meant holding on to players like Mahrez, Kante, and they weren't able to do that. They have gone out and spent. They have got good players, but I think they were the only team in Europe, or one of the only teams in Europe, not to buy anyone this summer. So when that is your summer window, what do you want to achieve this season? What is good for Leicester? Is it top 10? Is it not it looks like it's not get relegated at the moment. So yeah, I don't know what's happening there, but for that reason I've backed Spurs. I've gone 2-0. They're at home. There you go. On to the Sunday now at 12 o'clock. We have got Brentford taking on Arsenal. So Brentford sat in 8th place after the first 6 games. Have won 2, drawn 3 and lost just 1. And have had a very good start to the season. Ivan Toney has been smashing the ball away for Brentford and earned himself a call-up to the England squad as well. So well done to Ivan Toney there. Taking on an Arsenal side who are first in the league. However, suffered their first Premier League defeat back in Gameweek 6, where they lost 3-1 against Manchester United, which I don't think many thought was going to happen. But, as I say, are still top of the league and have a very exciting team this season. Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, a lot of these young, exciting players. And as much as Ivan Toney has been very good, and I think Brentford can score goals, It'll be tight. I've edged it to Arsenal. I've gone 2-1 Arsenal. Brentford won, was it 5-2 against Leeds in the last game, so they can score goals. And there's no reason you know what? I think this is why everyone loves the Premier League. I honestly think Brentford could do something here, but on paper, I think Arsenal would just edge it for me. And as I say, they're playing really well. It'll be really interesting to see, and I've said this a few times now, of just how Everton? How Arsenal develop throughout this season, because as I say, the young players, if things start to go wrong, if they do start losing 2-0 against Brentford, can they pick themselves up? Can they win it? I think Arsenal are flying on a high. I can't talk today. Flying on a high right now. I think if Arsenal score 1, they get 2 or 3. If Brentford score first, it could be quite a close game. And the final game of the weekend at 2:15 on Sunday, we have got Everton taking on West Ham. So this time we are talking about Everton. They are the only other team aside from Leicester still to win this season, but they've got a few draws under their belt. So they've got 4 draws in 2 losses, which puts them in 16th place after the first 6 games, which is obviously not the greatest of starts, but still better than some. Anthony Gordon has looked really good for Everton. I think they're trying to put everything through him at the minute. Just imagine had Chelsea actually signed him. I don't know who Everton would give the ball to be honest. And Calvert-Lewin is close to return from injury for them as well. So should he be available for this game, would be a big plus. Taking on a West Ham side who have had a worse start to the season than Everton, sat in 18th place. They have won 1, they've drawn 1, they've lost 4. So they are actually on the same amount of points, but goal difference, etc., has put them just that little bit lower. Are West Ham under a bit of pressure right now? Maybe. Again, West Ham are another team who wanted to push on and try and grab that. Get that Europa League spot again. And haven't really started that way. Obviously, they're having to split the squad between the games and the midweek games. I think it will be a tough season for a lot of teams because of that. But they did go out and spend the money. They went out, they bought Skamaka, they bought Paqueta. They brought in some exciting players. David Moyes needs to get it working. In fairness, They were screwed in their last game against Chelsea because of VAR, as were other teams that I've not actually mentioned in this video. But for this one, I've gone 1-1. As I say, it depends who turns up. If West Ham have the players for me on paper to win this game, and had they been at home, then I might have backed them. But I think it could be a close one. 1-1. And there you have it, guys. Those are my predictions up there for Game Week 8. Be sure to get your predictions down in the comments below. As always, I go through all of your predictions, and be sure to shout some of you guys out in the next video. And be sure to go and check out our online league as well down in the description. It's called Superbru. It's not a sponsor, it's not a promotion, it's just a fun way to kind of put your predictions in and join in. So be sure to check out both comments and link. And yeah, enjoy the football this weekend, guys. As I say, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We do prediction videos every week. Not next week, actually, because it's the international break. Maybe we could do something for the international break, actually. Let me know down below if you would like to see something for that. But generally, every week for the Premier League. So, as I say, drop a like if you have enjoyed this video, if you are enjoying this series, and subscribe so you do not miss any future prediction videos. Alright, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.